Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Mark Marquette, and we're so glad you're with us today to stay curious. Today, we've got an ASM partner with us, Mr. Mark Usciak, outstanding freelance photographer. How you doing, Mark?
Mr. Marquette, I'm doing great.
Well, we're glad to have you here. And as you all know that follow Stay Curious, Mark and his brother Tom have been photographers. They don't like to admit it, over 50 years. But when you hit your 60s and you've done stuff and made an impact, but yes, you have a half a century of coming out to Cape Kennedy or Cape Canaveral, like we have this beautiful shot of your background there. And boy, look at this. This is an amazing photograph because you got a bird there in the Falcon 9. Mark, how are you?
Doing well, doing well. Got a good launch up, so happy.
We're going to talk about that Crew Dragon 6 launch and a little bit about your career. We've talked about Mark before about his career, but we'll revisit a couple of his or what highlights of your career type of thing. But we wanted to let everybody know that we are brought to you today by Hyatt Place, Titusville. There is Hyatt Place last night, the streak shot that I took, and kind of outfoxed myself a little bit. I hadn't seen the streak. I thought, well, I'm not going to go down by Marty, who, by the way, our co-producer Marty sold a lot of shirts and had a big time at Spaceview Park for our museum. I expected the streak to go over the building a little bit more than going straight up, and I overestimated that pad 39A is way far right of that complex there. But we're going to have Shuttle Fest 2. Didn't put the slide in that but Shuttle Fest 2's a go, April 15th. We'll be talking a lot about that. Your brother Tom's going to be there. We're going to talk about the Base to Space, the Mobile Launch Platform 2 documentary that our friend Mike Cotton put together. So, also, before we start talking to Mark Usciak here, I want to remind everybody that around the world, everybody's looking up and seeing two bright stars in the west after sunset. Must have looked pretty out there at Cape Kennedy last night waiting for the launch.
It was right up there with the moon and not too far from the VAB, actually. All in the same shot.
There's the
Wow.
from China. That's Venus, the brightest one, and Jupiter, and what astronomers call a conjunction. There it is over Italy. All right, pretty cool view there. So all over the world we're looking at that stuff there. So get out and look. They're going to be visible. Jupiter will be gone in about 2 weeks. It's going to set below the horizon as the Earth moves around the sun. So we're going to see Venus, though, through the summer. Marty, we got a question?
I guess it's a comment from Brad McKinnon. He says, Mark is an amazing photographer. We all know that. And also he says, did you know that Alan Funt was his grandfather? Now, is that true?
Alan Funt was my grandfather? That's news to me.
Oh. Your grandfather was a famous baseball.
Well, my father was a baseball player.
Okay.
My dad played ball in the Army, and then
Thank you, Brad.
went into semi-pro ball, and that's where he met my mom in our hometown of Lancaster.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about where you grew up in Lancaster.
Pennsylvania. I've got my Amish beard on just for this trip.
Good.
And
no shoe fly pie. Nope. I brought Oreos for you guys. Well, you can at least have
those are great.
Some shoe fly pie for me.
I'll leave that for my brother while he's
well, your brother did bring me some last time he was here, okay? You think I'm kidding? I do have some Oreos here. Mint.
But no, I'm born and raised in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and grew up there. So never left. And
that is where in proximity of this Keystone State?
Well, we're
rectangular
about
state of PA.
60 miles west of Philly, maybe 30 miles south of Hershey. So it's.
But you're close to the Washington D.C. and your brother had a photo lab. There was a professional wedding photographer lab. You guys have photographed things from Gettysburg to Udvar-Hazy, right?
Absolutely.
Everything in between.
Yeah. So he'll be down, I guess, in April for you guys.
Okay. We'll see a picture. We'll see a picture of Tom. I know he's watching here. Yes, Tom's going to be part of our Shuttle Fest too. We were talking about that today. To celebrate your career here a little bit. put this meme together there that, myself included, we're in our 60s, actually, looking at 70, and you think, half a century ago? It doesn't seem like it, I was just listening to the Doors light my fire, and that's like over 50 years ago?
Love
You
that
kidding
song.
me? Wow. So what's this perspective you have of looking back on, one, how photography's changed in a half a century, and two, how it's stayed the same?
Well, you can't change the laws of physics, and you can't change shutter speeds and light. They're always going to be the same. So if you've perfected, or if you once you understand the aperture and ISO and shutter speed, and get a good grasp on what each one of those can control in your picture, it doesn't matter whether you're shooting digital or film. So night launches you have that picture up there. Night launches are always a little bit more challenging than daytime launches because once that rocket gets up off the pad, the only light there is what's reflected off of the smoke. And some rockets create more smoke than others, and some smoke is on one side of the pad or the other. And it's always when you're setting up cameras real close to the launch pad, you've got 5 seconds of pictures. That's pretty much is the maximum that you'll get. And it doesn't matter whether you're shooting film or digital. So once you get around that and understand that, that's pretty much the way it goes.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you can't change the laws of physics, and appreciate that little look at photography. Those changed some. Digital in a ways made it a little bit easier. The big change for me or anybody is it's free to take digital pictures. Look at the amount of pictures you took over your stay here, and could you imagine taking them to a lab and getting that $5 roll of film processed for $10, or and so you at least have $10 to look at 24 pictures. All right, even at $7.95 and a $2 roll of film,
Right.
That's 50 cents a picture. And now you said you handed me a card that had 8,000 pictures on it. You said that you took over this weekend.
Yep.
And that's the big difference. Is why we got a lot of photographers out there that, in my opinion, are semi-pro, not, But let's don't get into that. I'm just saying that
and cell phone has really made the big difference in photography too. I mean, the quality of the images coming from a cell phone today are superior to my digital cameras from 10 years ago. And I mean, even Carlton's new phone, I mean, God, he's got the pictures he shows me off of that are just incredible. And it's like, I have to ask him. I said, is that your camera or is that the phone?
It is, exactly.
9 times out of 10, he says it's the phone. And I just go, oh, God.
We're talking about our good friend Carlton Bailey. He's here in the studio. He supplied some of the pictures we're going to see today. But he's given Mark Usciak the whole spotlight here on Stay Curious. And Michael Jaski's anxious to see our program today is Jimmy Brown. Maris Krasinski, she said that she was going to be watching. Brad Byron, Mike Medrano, and we already heard from Brad McKinnon, and Bridget Crawford's watching today.
Okay, well,
in there. So talk a little bit there. Of course, there you are at the Artemis, and we're going to look at a couple pictures of that here in just a minute. So I'll have you talk about Artemis. We've got to get your brother Tommy in there. Hey, Tom.
Hey, Tom.
When really getting to know you guys, heck, it'll be 2 years ago in July.
Wow.
Marty took us to Udvar Hazy to see the Travis Thompson's closeout suit crew in a case there, and Discovery. Just a beautiful, Udvar Hazy. Wow, what a place. I got to go back and spend more time there. All the places, attractions are, you need to spend just one day at them.
That's amazing.
Marty wants to go to the Marine Museum. Did you ever make it to the Marine Museum, Marty?
Yeah, I've been there a couple of times.
Yeah.
But they'll keep making changes, make it a little bit better each time.
But that was a great trip. Marty, comment a little bit on our family UCAC microphone there that your brother and his wife Vicky and you helped buy. Speak just a minute there about visiting them in Washington, D.C., if you would.
Did you say visiting my brother?
No, the UCACs, when we met them, when this picture was being taken here, that was quite an event for Travis, of course. And anyway, they've contributed a lot to us, is what I want to try to
Yeah,
get you
because
to say.
one of my highlights was they sent me, actually asked them for it, about 3 pictures from the Apollo era. And then I had them printed out here, and then they signed it for me. So that was a highlight for me, as well as seeing, the orbiter and Travis's uniform.
Yeah, great. Yeah, good day there. Thank you,
That
Tom.
was.
You and your brother, and Steve Nolte, and your other fourth partner, Bob Preston, covered how many shuttle launches together?
Wow.
I mean, you were paired up either
Yeah,
4 of
well,
you, 2 of you, or 3 of you.
or
but-
one of us. Yeah, I mean, it's well over 65.
Uh-huh.
I'm sure. Tom has all the negatives in the film and stuff like that from those missions. So he's kind of like the archivist of our group.
Well, no, he doesn't, because you bequeath those to
To
the
you,
American
yes.
Space Museum. No, but no, they have. Tom and Mark both said their exhaustive library of images is going to end up in the American Space Museum, and we're actually Karan Conklin, our executive director, and I have talked about revitalizing some postcards and some things like that in the future with that. So we look forward to that. So
Thank you.
you're welcome. Thank you, guys. Well, of all your career moves and career things you covered, obviously, this has to be up there. Where are you? This is actually a shuttle of the month of March, STS-3.
That was the third flight of the shuttle, and it turned out to be one of my favorite missions of the entire 30-year program. The only time the shuttle ever landed in New Mexico instead of Florida or California was that flight, and was fortunate enough to become good friends with the commander of that mission, Jack Lousma, and his family, and also Marie Fullerton. Marie, if you're watching, hey, this is the show that I was telling you about, and hope to be able to get you on here when you're in town later on this spring. But her husband, Gordon Fullerton, was the pilot beside Jack Lousma in that shot right there as it crossed over the mountain range coming in for the landing at White Sands, and got to be really good friends with Marie over the years through different space events, notably Space Fest in Arizona, and also some events with the Astronaut Scholarship Foundation here in Florida. And was sad that I never really met Gordon, her husband, has passed away. But I'm hoping we'll be able to get Marie here on the show.
We'd love that. We'd love that. And this is the friendship that Mark Usciak and his brother brought to the American Space Museum is just incredible. Like meeting Jack. I mean, there is Jack Lousma commanding this landing with Fullerton beside him. Okay, and this is what year?
82.
82.
Yep. March
So
of
we're
82.
talking 40 years later. We're standing at a hotel with Jack Lousma. There you are on the left, and there I am. Carlton took that picture, and we can't. He loves to talk about his career. He loves to talk about Skylab. But it's one of these kismet type of things of life that here he is landing this spaceship. Okay.
Yeah.
And 40 years later, he's
Mary.
a friend of yours, and you know his family very well.
Absolutely.
His sister, his daughter. I mean,
His
right?
daughter Mary really well. His sons I got to meet. He just had a birthday. Jack just had a birthday.
Happy 87th leap day.
And a
baby.
quarter, whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. In Houston. Mary asked me to come down to photograph his 21st birthday, right before COVID. Closed everything
His
down.
21st birthday.
Yeah. It was great.
I mean,
It was absolutely. He was 84. Yeah.
84. Yeah.
It was great. It was memorable.
He's a Dave Stange and Pusker. They'd like to, and he's a Wolverine
Michigan,
from
yep.
Michigan. Okay, and I got to pick him up and take him to Zarellas. So when I picked him up at the hotel, I had my scarlet and gray Ohio State blanket spread out on the passenger seat. He opened up. He goes, "What's that?" I said, "You need a little color in your life. Hop in, Jack, if you dare." You Wolverine, Michigan guy. Well, there's another Michigander that we'll put up here. There's Mr. Chris Calley. And again, my way of thanking you and your brother for some of the people that we've met here in the last couple of years of our friendship. I mean that very sincerely, Mark.
Thank you.
You guys have introduced us to Chris Calley, who you've done work for. Just a lot of people, as well as establishing the credibility of our humble little museum.
This is a great
That
place.
we've always been credible, but once you get in here, you really don't understand what we're all about, and that's preserving the birth of the American space age in its delivery room.
This is an awesome, awesome museum that there's nothing like it anywhere else. And I've been to museums from California to New York to Florida to Texas, and the uniqueness of this place, it just can't be matched. So we're glad that you've embraced us as we've grown a liking to you, Marty and Karan, and the rest of the crew here. They're just awesome people, and I wish everybody could come and see this place. It's well worth the trip if you're on the Space Coast.
Thank you. Yeah, we hope you do. And if not, stay curious, and we'll bring you as much of it as we can there. Our buddy Chris Calley, famous artist of space in the world, believe that. His father, Paul Calley, you've seen the images of the Apollo 11 sketches and stuff he did in the suit room, as well as some iconic imagery, like John Glenn's reentry on the National Geographic cover, and stamps. Chris and his late father Paul, who passed away over a decade ago, over 40 U.S. postage stamps between them.
Wow.
And Chris is going to talk about his dad at our Shuttle Fest, and hopefully reveal some work. I haven't been able to get a hold of him. He must be hunkered down.
He's out of the country. He's
he
there in
is
Ireland,
enjoying
I
a pint
believe.
in Ireland.
Yeah,
I
hey
think,
Chris.
right now. And Robert Law in Dundee, Scotland. Look out!
Here you go.
Chris Calley's loose somewhere on the continent up there. So over in the UK. So hope to hear from you soon, Chris. Safe journeys to you. Another one that, like I said, sincerely, like these Usciaks here, become a good friend of ours to help us as a nonprofit to sustain our existence here, as well as keep going up to the next level. You got some great photos, my friend, and you get up early to do them. This was what's this one going on here? This is once in a, not lifetime exactly, but sort of is shot.
Well, once in a decade maybe, but that was for the Artemis launch back in November. I came down. My good friend, or our good friend, Carlton Bailey, was kind enough to provide lodging and for me for these trips. And so I get up and try not to wake him up when I'm getting out before the crack of dawn, and get up to a couple spots not too far from the museum here in Titusville. I shot this picture, and it's one of those things. You get up and you don't know. The clouds have to be right. The sun, there has to be enough haze between you and the sun to be able to act as a filter, because if there wasn't that in between you, that sun would be so bright that you couldn't see. And everything worked out right. The clouds were right. The atmospheric conditions were right. Obviously the rocket's not going anywhere, so it's always going to be in the same spot, but then you've got to kind of figure out by using different apps on your phone what part of the horizon the sun's going to pop up on, and then you've got to maneuver yourself in a spot where you can be able to make everything line up. And it worked out good, and I got some this trip too with the obviously there wasn't any rockets on the pad, but I got some good shots with the VAB.
Mm-hmm.
And
we're going to see one of those
sun,
here in a minute. Yeah.
The sun shot. So
yeah, to get the horizon so clear,
yep,
is usually it's blocked by sun clouds at least 3 or 4
yep,
degrees above it there.
Absolutely.
But, outstanding shot there, and you mentioned using an app. What's that all about to people that aren't photographers?
Well, there's free apps on either your iPhone in the App Store or the Google Store for your Samsungs and that kind of stuff. I was using the Star Walk 2 app, and you basically download that on your phone, and then when you hold your phone up and point it to the direction that you're looking at, it'll give you a path, what part of the sky that the sun is going to pop up, or the moon. And that kind of gives you, I mean, it's not military grade exact, but it gives you a pretty good range that if you're in that certain zone, you'll be able to make it work. So everything worked out great that day, and
Good.
that's the way to go.
Thank you for that explanation. Well, one of a couple hundred photographers and thousands of people that saw the rollout there. What was that like, looking back at it?
That was way back in March, I believe. That was on St. Patrick's Day, I think, March 17th of last year. Again, first time that this vehicle ever came out of the VAB. It subsequently had some issues on the pad, so it had to go back out. So I think it's rolled out. Is that rolled out 2 or 3 times now, Carlton? I forget. You were probably here
3.
for the other ones 3 times.
They had
3.
Yeah, was it 3? Okay, so this one was the inaugural, and they had a big stage set up. The administrator was there, gave a speech. The center directors and all that kind of stuff were there, and then the press could be either back, or they gave you the option to be up real close to it on the crawlerway. And with the lighting and the sun, you had to pick. You couldn't do both places. So I had to make the decision to either stay back, get the whole building, the whole vehicle. I have some other shots. I'm not sure, you probably won't show those, but you may have seen them before with the flagpole and stuff in the way. There were some birds. There's an osprey nest not too far from where I was standing here, and got some nice shots with birds and things flying in front of it. So you had to kind of pick. I mean, it would have been neat to be underneath it looking up, but then you wouldn't have seen all the other angles. So I'll make it down for the next rollout when they roll out Artemis 2 and get the up close shots then. So,
well, the beast is unleashed, and there's your picture of it.
that was from the press site, 3.5 miles away. Quite bright. I think that was probably the biggest shock to me. I mean, I've seen shuttle night launches before, and this one just seemed to be a bit brighter. I think the atmospheric conditions probably played a part on that. There was a lot of ground fog and haze, and I think that just kind of magnified the lightness or the brightness intensity to those watching from the ground. But yeah, it was amazing. Great launch, great time. Well worth the wait.
Yes, gorgeous. Compared to a night shuttle launch, you say it was brighter. How
It
about the
to
noise
me,
level there?
they say it was louder. My camera's fired, so that worked. I mean, the cameras, we had remote cameras. I was actually pushing the button here, looking through a telephoto lens, but we had cameras out around the launch pad, and they fired I knew they would, but some people said that this was louder. I don't know what the actual decibel limit. I'm sure there's probably some website you can go to, so that you could find
Depends
out.
where you were. There was some
That's true.
atmospheric things. It was not very noisy over here, 9 miles
Titusville.
away at the edge of the river. For those of us here, Mike Leinbach on top of the Launch Control Center said it blew him away compared to a shuttle launch in there. So
I heard it topped out at the pad at 129 decibels.
okay, Carlton's saying 129 decibels there. That's not even a Led Zeppelin concert. Okay, come on. Jeez, that's lightweight there. Thank you, Carlton. Well, you turn around, you never know what you're going to see out the Space Center, right, Mark?
Well, they're filming a movie, a feature-length movie with some Scarlett Johansson and who else, Carlton? Channing Tatum and Woody Harrelson also is in this movie, from what somebody told me. When it's coming out, I don't know, but they're basically recreating the Space Center from back in the 60s. So there was a parking lot full of late to mid 1960s vintage cars and trucks up there at the press site all week with the film crew. And they even brought in, you can see those little light poles there in the back that are cutting up through the LCC that they had brought in and just anchored down to the ground. So yeah,
So it's a moon race.
it's
movie,
some
huh?
kind of I think it's Apple TV, I think, is sponsoring it. And
Scarlett Johansson. They
well,
must be doing featuring Hazel SeaCac Banks out there.
That could be.
Yeah, maybe they're doing a show around you, Hazel, one of the secretaries out there in there for using Scarlett Johansson. 'Cause-
Nobody saw anybody up there though. So,
Yeah.
I mean, they were looking. Everybody was looking, and they kept
But
them
there's
pretty
been
much
some,
sequestered.
there's a beautiful Mustang and a Ford Galaxy. It looks like. Is that a Galaxy?
There was all kinds.
Marty's saying, "Gee, that looks like the parking lot I drove into," and when I was working on the lunar module
Yep.
there. Well,
That's exactly right.
well, Carlton, yeah, Marty.
It is an Apple movie.
Apple TV,
Yeah, Apple. Yeah.
Apple
and,
Plus. Okay.
there's something else you said. I think I meant to comment on, but I forget what it is. I'll interrupt you later.
How's our audience today, Marty? Our fans out there, and
You want the list?
well, no, just anybody commenting anything.
Oh, just good show, great pictures.
We'll appreciate that. And we do have one of the top pros here in our studio. Of course, I've said many times, as an Associated Press photographer, don't do much for money anymore. When I see these guys working and doing the way they do, I kind of just want to throw my cameras in the ocean and let them do it there. But but you gotta stay, you gotta shoot to be sharp. I think I'm a little rusty, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, you got to do it. I mean,
Yes, Marty.
Oh, I remember what I was going to say. It's a romantic movie back in the late 1960s.
See, that's it. It's about Hazel SeaCac Banks and being a secretary there, and it's a romantic movie. You kind of figured that. Maybe
Sorry, romantic comedy.
a romantic
I'll
comedy,
get my act together sometime today. Romantic comedy.
a rom-com. So
a
they
rom-com on the
Yes.
Space Coast. Yeah, they love that. All right. That would be interesting to tell all those tales.
I can't wait to see it.
with,
I'll probably know
those
some of the
Alpha Dog
extras.
astronauts and all that stuff.
There you go.
Well, we're enjoying being with Mark Usciak, freelance photographer like we got there, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, a great friend of our museum, along with Carlton Bailey here in the studio. Marty, these are people that we've attracted over the last 3 years almost of doing Stay Curious. How did you find out about Stay Curious, by the way? 'Cause we never knew each other. You guys started watching
yeah,
the podcast. We
I
reached
think
out.
that's where it was. I think I'm not sure if my brother found it first or if I found it first. But we clicked on and we're watching, and I think some other friends of ours may have been watching and said, "Hey, let's check this out." And I've been a constant follower ever since. And when I work during the day, and sometimes if we're slow, I put my little earbuds in and don't listen to this at work, guys. No.
There you go. Yeah.
And
We
while
bust you all the time.
well, I know. While I'm working, I can still listen and hear, but it's great.
Well, Marty and I have done 764 episodes today.
Wow.
And March 23rd is the first one coming up. And y'all think back 3 years, this pandemic, COVID pandemic, was just starting to take a grip around our country, and the whole country was shut down. St. Patrick's Day,
Yep.
2020. So,
Yep.
in 3 years, we've come a long way, I think. And we did lose a lot of loved ones. I personally lost 2 photography friends
Really?
that just out of the blue, you thought they were healthy and they had compromising things that COVID got them. So, well, let's segue out of the past into the future of yesterday's beautiful launch, a nominal launch. We had Bowen the commander, Woody Hoberg the pilot. We've got a Sultan on board and a Russian there. And there's their beautiful
Crew patch.
crew patch. Marty, you saw that crew patch a lot last night. Tell us about Spaceview Park last night. Marty sold $1,200 worth of merchandise for the museum.
Wow.
And
Yeah, we sold
thank God he didn't have to do that, folks.
We sold $2,100 worth of merchandise.
I stand corrected.
Yeah.
All right, 2,100. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people from Europe again, especially Great Britain. Had somebody from some people from Scotland, just all over Europe.
Yeah,
We had a
they're-
pretty good crowd.
Europeans love the space program. They love the shuttle. The ESA is very involved, of course, with ISS and everything that's going on. And like I said, Marty, a tremendous volunteer, spending his time out there. And he's not a night owl, I'll guarantee you that. Okay, he's a sunrise getting up type of guy. So thank you, Marty. That was so important. $2,000 means a lot to our American Space Museum. So we basically kept $1,000 of it in the bank. So after we paid off the shirts and stuff. So, but let's talk a little bit about the walkout. I'll shut up a little bit and let you take over there, Mark.
Well, this one is actually from last night. The second walkout. Of course, they scrubbed the first attempt. So I tried a different angle this time. It's a little bit different than what it was in the shuttle days. Now they cater more to the families and friends of the crewmates.
We're going to see that in a minute. I got these pictures here. We're going to go through to
But this one, they're actually walking down the same gangplank or walkway that comes out. Yeah, it comes out of the building, and it's just a very iconic place, and you can see
every
patches.
American astronaut has walked on that concrete gangplank.
No, since the shuttle days.
That's not the way to put
it's not. It wasn't. It was there since the Apollo days.
And
actually,
you see the mission logos above
up
it
top.
and stuff from. I think Apollo 7 was the first one to walk out on there, quite frankly. So, but let's look at some of your pictures around the, this is a beautiful shot you took.
Yep. They when they took us out to set up the remote cameras a few days before launch, we were fortunate enough to have a beautiful sunrise, and you got some nice morning light. There we're looking due west. The sun at my back, nice warm color temperature, and you can see the capsule there at the top with that little silver and black arm that comes out of the tower. That's what the crew walks across to enter the capsule before launch time.
Mm-hmm. And whoa, there's Ellie Sheriff and Carlton Bailey there, just to say hi to Carlton, and he's going to provide a lot of the pictures we're going to see after this. If you don't know Ellie in space, she has a podcast. It's quite popular.
Hey, Ellie.
And you guys hung out with her during this launch there. Had a good time.
Great gal.
Yep. She does a good job.
She does awesome
She works hard.
Awesome work.
And she's very passionate about space, and particularly she's one of your go-to experts about the Starship, I'd say, for doggone sure.
Absolutely.
So, big shout out to you, Ellie, there with the old man there that took care of you, Carlton Bailey. All right. So looking good, Carlton, in one of his famous shirts there. Carlton, you took these pictures, but we'll have Mark talk about it there. There's John Tilco, whose friend Woody Holberg is now orbiting the Earth.
Yep, this was at one of the sites for remote camera placement. You can see obviously which way the cameras are all pointing. That's the way the direction that the rocket is in.
Now they're in a mailbox or whatever. Explain
There's
why.
different kinds of setups. Some guys use just plastic bags. Some guys use plastic boxes like we use plastic. John preferred to go with a more robust system. He's got a wooden box that surrounds each one of his cameras to protect it from the weather, because sometimes they sit out there for a day or two or more, and helps keep the rain and things off of them. And unfortunately, because of the launch slip, John had previous engagements back home up in Boston, so he pulled his equipment the day before the launch and had to head back home. But lots of different, there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's more than one way to shoot the pictures. And
there's a famous shooter.
another good friend, Mr. Joe Marino. He's been doing this since long time, since the shuttle days too. And
buses in the background, the fancy bus there, the doors open, and I guess you just assume it's going to rain.
Well, here in Florida, you know how it is, and you basically have to protect the camera, and some guys prefer different methods of protection, and some guys just put bags over their cameras, and that works too. But then if you get water spots on the lenses or something like that, then you don't have that option of going out and cleaning the lens the day before the launch. So
there's one of my favorite guys, Craig Bailey.
Hey, Craig.
Or the backside of him anyway.
Yep.
That's a famous location there, though. So they put you in the bus. How many buses are there? How many photographers a bus? How many stops do you
Well,
make?
this time we had 3 buses. There was usually a bus for the wire services, like the UPIs and the APs and the Reuters. They get to go first. They usually have more equipment, so they go out, set everything up. And we had 4 different remote camera locations that we could use for this flight. The majority of the guys put them at least in 2, some put them in 3. So it's hard to hit all 4 just because of how much stuff you have to carry, because the equipment and the tripods and the cameras and the triggering systems can weigh you down. So if it's one guy setting the stuff up, it can be a bit. So
there's Florida Today photographer Craig Bailey. The bus stops. How long you got to set up this gorgeous shot here? I've seen Carlton use this setup. I've seen you use it.
Yep. Each stop, you're allotted 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
Whether you're setting up 1 camera or 4 cameras, you've got 20 minutes, and they hold to that very, very strictly. And these guys, the majority of the guys that were there have been out before, so it's a learning curve, and you get to practice it over and over again, so you can get it down to 20 minutes. Pretty much no problem. I mean, sometimes you'll run into an issue of something, a wire fails or something, and you got to run back to the bus to get a spare thing or something. But nobody was in trouble by taking too long, and everything went pretty smooth.
So battery powered, of course, these are sound triggered or ground motion
Correct.
Triggered shutters.
Yep.
They could be out there a day or 2, particularly with the Artemis. You were
Multiple
out there.
days.
So
Yep.
you got to have some good battery juice.
Yep. Yep.
on
They
that.
don't draw a whole lot. I mean, and you can put batteries in tandem. So our stuff we can leave out there pretty much for 4 or 5 days. It's more the lenses and stuff.
Marty, we
That's
got
the
a
thing.
question for our guest, Mark Usciak.
Yeah, we have 2 questions. The first one's from Zigubin. He says, how long can you have the cameras out there before the batteries run out, or do you have some sort of self-powered generation option, such as solar panels?
I saw solar panels for the first time back in Artemis. I don't use them. Our cameras are powered, or the triggers are powered both with the cameras go to sleep. So once you actually set the camera up, compose your shot, focus it, set everything, your exposures, and push the button, the camera basically goes to sleep and doesn't wake up until the sound trigger says that it's hearing a noise louder than 100 decibels. When it does that, it'll fire. So the cameras and the batteries and the trigger batteries are easily a week before I'd start to worry about having to change them. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you, Rock Keats. He's in Europe.
Okay.
Asking that question. That young man, Zabrubin, he's on Twitch, and he's part of the East
Cool.
Gateway there. Rock
Okay.
Keats, thank you. And we're gonna get in touch with you and do some interviews there, my friend. And here's Carlton. So another question, Marty. Thank you. So we're looking at Carlton's camera setup here.
We have a question from Bill Whiting. Mark, what's your most memorable moment while shooting at KSC?
Over 50 years, God, that's like trying to figure out which one's your favorite kid. I've had so many, really. I mean, I can remember my first time, Apollo 16, as a young lad in the press site. That was pretty memorable because I didn't know any better. It was my first time there, sort of like Ellie's first time. This was her first mission in the press site. She had been doing social media and had watched launches from other locations outside. But I can only imagine her excitement of what it was to be that close. Memorable time, probably first time up on the VAB roof, I would say would probably be my most memorable. And that would have been back in 1995, I believe, for a space shuttle flight. Because when I first came here back in 1971, I always looked out at that building and said, boy, I wonder what it would be like to shoot from up there. And it took me over 24 years to actually realize that dream of being up there to see and shoot a launch from there. So I'd say first trip to the VAB roof would probably be it for a flight.
Great.
Another question.
Thank you, Bill Whiting, for that.
Yeah, Doug Forrest is asking, has lightning ever been a problem with the remote cameras?
Oh boy.
I wouldn't say it was a problem. It had tripped some things before. I know Carlton got some beautiful lightning shots from the Artemis launch or pre-launch. As far as my stuff goes, our trigger system has a 1 second damper built into it. So some guys, you walk up to their triggers and clap and it'll fire the cameras. Our system needs 1 full second of 100 decibels or longer before my camera fires. So it's very rare, if anything, to have a 1 second, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you count it out, it's a pretty long time for a continuous sound. So on my end, no, but I mean, it's more of a bonus. If you can get lightning and have something set your camera off, the shot you get, as Carlton got, which is an awesome shot, by the way, that's a bonus. I'd love that if I could do it.
May I interject that we had your brother on and we talked about lightning striking some cameras and destroying them in some of the storms out there. So, not during a launch, but just sitting out there waiting out a launch there. Lightning has taken its toll on some equipment out there. So, another question, Marty?
Another question from C. Gubin. What would be your bucket list location to take photos of launch from where you're not allowed to go yet?
What restricted area would you like to set a camera up?
How about
Stand?
inside that capsule?
Oh, inside the capsule. Okay, that's a good.
You're looking at my favorite stowaway here.
Yeah.
I'd hide inside one of the cargo bays. That's a good question. It would be great, but because of the security zones and things that they have, there's a really neat place north of the pads called Playa Linda Beach. And depending on which time of day and which pad that it's going from, I've shot some stuff from up there already, and it's really neat. But depending on which pad that the actual rocket is taking off from, Playa Linda Beach gives you a very, very unique look, because you see people, you see water, you see sand, and then you see the rocket going up. So I like that. If I couldn't be in the press site, and if I had access, the park opens and closes at certain times. So like night launches, you'll never see a night launch picture from Playa Linda because it closes at dusk. But that would be a neat place to shoot from, if you could get in or get special permission to be up there for like a night launch, because then you could do a streak shot of it coming up over the ocean and a long enough exposure to have the beach illuminated and all that kind of stuff. But who knows, maybe in the future something like that might open up.
Great question there and good answer there. Well, let's go to 10:30, about 10 o'clock last night, and to the walkout at the famous area there. There's one picture there. We got a couple pictures to show here. Carlton Bailey, thank you for sharing this. Is looking towards what are we looking at there, Mark?
Well, we're looking at the fence line, which is where photographers were allowed to be. In the front there, where you see the yellow striping and some of the poles up, that is where they put the families and
That's
the
a
friends.
black Tesla there that they're going to get in, correct?
Yep, they have 2 of those that are there. 2 astronauts get in the back seat.
There's where they're going to walk out.
Yep,
there.
Yep, the door. So this is just kind of like an overview of this was. Yeah, so this is the same area, just kind of back a little bit further.
Where you're standing on the road on the left side there.
Right.
Let's
So
go
then,
there. Yeah. Wow.
yeah. So
You're standing there looking at this.
Yep. Correct.
And so that's a couple astronauts there, family, friends, girlfriends
Correct.
in there. Okay. And then this is
So this
you
was
took this
this
shot.
was yeah, this was last night before any of the family got there. So you can see where they have the two Teslas set up. Kind of in the center there, a little bit to the left is the ramp they walk down, and you can see there's a bar across the top of those two white pillars that are closest there on the left.
Mm-hmm.
That's where NASA and the wire services mount remote cameras, and those are fired not by sound, but they're wired into a button. So somebody on the ground pushes that, and they just fire at will, and they just fire as they come walking down. They're preset. Exposures are preset and everything else, and then all the photographers there in the front, and it stretches all the way to the right side
This
of the
is a
image.
360, right?
It's a 180.
180, yeah,
Yeah,
180. You're
it's a
looking
180.
whole-
Yep.
There at the what is now called the Neil Armstrong Building, the former operations and checkout
Yep.
there. Some dignitaries there.
There was center director was there, and then the administrator Bill Nelson as well, along with some other folks. And since this was an international mission with a astronaut from the United Arab Emirates and also one from Russia, lots of dignitaries there.
There they are. There, the Russian in the foreground and the Sultan in the back there.
Yep.
Great shot there. I know that was easy to
Yeah,
capture.
that was a toughie. That's one of those things where you're shooting through people, and they're actually sitting in the back seat of the second Tesla.
It's an awesome shot.
And they were both facing their families, were in front of me but slightly to the right, so they were smiling and waving to their families before they drove off.
The Sultan from the United Arab Emirates has 6 children. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
And I don't know about the other ones, the kids they have, but just to remind everybody that, they leave a family when they depart Earth, and with no guarantee that they're going to come back. So here it is last night, getting ripe at Cantel. Everybody's getting excited for the 12:34 launch. Tell us what that was.
Well, that was in the press site before we're going out to either pick up or service remote cameras or go to the walkout. They bring buses up, and this one was for the walkout checkout part, where they bring everybody that's taking equipment out has to lay it out on the ground, and then they bring canine security dogs over to sniff the equipment to make sure there's nothing in there that would upset them.
Oh,
So-
okay. All right. All right. And then as you're watching there with your telephoto lenses and so forth, you see
Yep.
that we've seen this such a routine with the Falcon 9 Novas up that have been here and live here. So this was a big change of crewed launches. Was we used to put the astronauts on the launch after the rocket was fueled. Now we put them on SpaceX and fuel the rocket like 30 minutes before the launch. So
That was the stuff you're seeing there is the venting from the super cold liquid fuels that are in there. It's 300 degrees below zero, and it was pretty humid last night. You could, from where we are there 3.5 miles away, you could look through your lens, or some guys had telescopes or binoculars, and you could see a lower level of ground haze. And by just getting that wavy look when you're looking through something, sort of like when you're looking at a hot asphalt and you see the heat waves coming up.
right, yes.
Well, there it was just the moisture in the air plus the cold venting from the fuel inside the rocket just kind of made a misty glow.
And that's from the press site.
That is
3
from the press
miles
site.
away.
Yep, that was about 10 minutes before launch.
3, 2, 1,
Boom.
liftoff.
Yep.
There. And the photographers really don't like night launches that much, do you?
Well, it's a challenge. I like night launches if the air is clear.
Mm-hmm.
For that, like a nice October launch when you have 20% humidity, that picture would look totally different than that one.
You see the kind of fuzzy.
You see it,
those
yeah.
around there. That's
Yep.
the
And if you blow
moisture.
that picture up about halfway up from where the flame is all the way up, the rocket is super sharp, and you can see on the that water tower tank there's SpaceX is painted on the top of that, sharp as a bell. But if you go down below, halfway down from that water tower down, there's not a straight line there. It's just all wavy.
Now, once
So-
it clears the tower and so forth, I love this shot.
Yep, this is one of my remote shots. I was doing a test. This is my first accredited Falcon launch, and where I could put out remote cameras and things. So this one, I set the camera to 3 seconds and let it pick the aperture. So I wanted to see how much light. I was trying to get a streak shot, but it didn't work out because there was so much ground haze that it just kind of blossomed out. It just looked like a big blob of light. But the camera kept firing because it could still hear the engines as the rocket was out of the frame. So I have a whole series here, probably of 30 or 40 or 50 shots that just shows the smoke and different. And if you look at it real close, you can see the smoke looks it's moving. It's a wispy type thing. So the things that aren't moving, the cameras in front, the launch tower, the things there on the road, the stationary objects are still, but the smoke has that kind of a cottony, misty type look to it. So that was a future site I'll go back to, but set my camera a little bit different for the next time. So
Good. Lessons learned.
Yep.
Marty, another question?
Yeah, Z. Gubin, how long after launch are you allowed to collect your equipment? And does SpaceX also enforce the restriction of not photographing their ground equipment after launch? Or was it
Great
asked?
questions there, Rock Keats. Again, this is a gentleman, the ESA guy in Europe.
okay, we went out about 2 hours, I believe, after this launch. So yeah, I didn't get to bed till 4:30. So
But that's
if I had
unusual,
bags
isn't it?
under my eyes. You know what? Carlton would probably be the guy to know. This was my first launch. It all depends. I think a lot
Yeah.
of the things that drive when you can go back is the condition of the pad. If there was an issue like there was with
Gotcha.
Artemis,
Yeah.
and they had some things that might have had some hazardous spills or something like that, we didn't get our Artemis cameras back for, what was it, 2 days sometimes. But these things are pretty much, on average, I'd say 2 to 3 hours is pretty much the normal to be able to retrieve your cameras. And I forget, what was the other part of the question, Marty? Was there another one there, or just
Ground support.
ground support?
Photographing
Oh.
any priority top secret equipment, they say don't point your camera in that direction.
Nobody said anything to us this time. There wasn't really anything to see. I mean, it's just a launch tower that kind of goes, that launch tower, the black thing there stays. There wasn't really anything exposed from that.
Now you look on the far right of our green screen, there is a photograph of, that's the gantry for the Starship going up there.
Right.
They used to let us set inside the fence line or inside the pad perimeter.
Uh-huh.
And once they started collecting their equipment to build,
Starship
the
launch
Starship pad there, they stopped letting us inside the perimeter fence. Part of it was for safety, and they did, when we were inside, would tell us, no, don't photograph all that stuff, which is kind of hard to do when you're setting a remote camera and it's in between your camera and the rocket you're photographing. So you can't take a picture while you're standing there, but if your remote camera snaps it,
Oh, okay.
you can't do anything
Gotcha
about
there.
it. But that's why, that's the conjecture that we were told anyway. So that's what I go by.
Thank you, Carlton Bailey, for adding that in there. We got a lot of good people watching the show today as we wind down. Would you like to say hello to some of our Stay Curious friends out there?
Who was that? JT Costas.
Uh-huh.
We got Steve Hammer. Hey, Steve. Mr. Brad McKinnon. Howdy. Cynthia Rossi. Dave Stangy. How's it going there, bud?
He'll be here next week.
Ophelia
Yeah.
Sauterelle.
in
John
France.
Thomas. Hey, John. He's a friend of mine from him and his wife, Bev, friends of mine from home.
Good.
Doug Forrest. Hey, Doug. Christopher Mick. We got Bill Whiting. There's Beverly Thomas. And who else we got? Tammy. What's that say? Tammy Miller.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Law. Big Brother Tom. Hey, Gene Wright. James Sigler. What's that next one? Voltanu.
Voltano, yeah. And Zubin.
Zabing.
That's Rock Keats
Yep.
in Europe.
Robert Katz.
Hey, Robert.
Jimmy Brown. And Terry Inman, looks like.
Well, awesome. Hope you've enjoyed Mark Usciak sharing a little bit about what it's like to be a rocket photographer, a little bit about his career out there. You actually, as we show you this parting shot here, gorgeous. You know, a photographer makes what he can out of the situation you're at. So the rockets cleared the tower, the lights kind of dissipated, yet you peeled one off there that is quite spectacular in many ways.
Well, this is from the same spot that I shot the real close-up shot. I was using a 100 to 400 zoom lens on my camera. This is from the press site, 3.5 miles from the pad. The iconic flagpole that's been there since a long time, I guess since shuttle days, maybe even Apollo.
Mm-hmm.
You have the reflection in the water, which is the turn basin that goes right by the bottom part of the press site. You can see some shadows or silhouettes of some of the photographers that were actually set up down there, and the vehicle screaming out of the top there. And by this time you could hear the noise. It was hitting you about this time, and then you had a nice little audio treat and a visual treat.
Nice shot there. Some
Thank
photographers will be grabbing their telephoto lens to shoot the flame instead of a nice wide angle shot like there. Really makes the smoke being
Yep.
illuminated background there. Of course, the silhouette of the other photographers there, the human element, always a professional photographer like Mark Usciak's looking to get in his pictures. We got a final question from Marty.
Z. Gubin again. Do you think it would be possible to set off the camera remotely, like cellular?
That is not allowed for numerous reasons. They have restrictions in place that they don't want stray signals bouncing around out there between there and the pad.
Great question, though.
So all of the, I think one of the ways I may do it in the future, I mean, we've been using sound triggers since the first shuttle flight. This time, I did a test for, my brother got me a Myops trigger, which is a brand of camera triggering devices that work on sound, lightning, motion. There's a bunch of different methods you can use. And I think this one has a timer built into it. There's different levels of Myops that you can buy. I think the one that I have got from my brother has a timer system in it. So our trigger system that we use that Steve and Bob had built since back in 1980s uses just a Radio Shack decibel meter, and it listens for noise. You can dial the sensitivity up on it. So it listens for noise from 70 to 120 decibels. So we set it at 100 because we know it's going to always be 100. But these newer triggers go by, you can put timers. I think they have internal timers built into them. So I think what I'm going to do next time I test this Myops out, this flight had to go exactly on time. There was no launch window, and it was an exact flight, exact launch time. So what I might do is actually trigger the camera via this trigger, but with its built-in timer. So the launch time last night was 12:34. I would set that timer on that camera trigger to fire at exactly 12:33 and just keep shooting until the card is filled. That way I'd know I'd get something of it going up, which I did not get this time because my sound trigger tripped late. I think I have one frame which I didn't bring here because I got to do some Photoshop work to kind of coax something out of it. the rocket was almost out of the frame when my trigger fired for its first shot. Carlton did get some good stuff because he had been here before and knew some settings or knew his placement a little bit better. So this for me was an exploratory mission to come down when I come down for future SpaceX flights. But as far as radio or cell phone triggering, that's verboten. That doesn't fly.
We've had a lot of great questions today. Kathy Brown's been watching. We got Corey Skinner's watching. Cliff Watson in Pomona, Australia, sent us about $10, 200 stars there. We're going to start to coaxing y'all send us. We do get that money on a quarterly basis. So I've checked that out. Cliff, thank you very much. He's already into Friday. TGIF Cliff in Pomona, Australia, where they're having brekkie. Some eggs and bacon, no doubt, up there. Bacon, right? Right. Well, thank you, Mark Usciak, for a great program again, as usual. Hope you all learned a lot, taking you behind the scenes there. Thank you, Carlton Bailey, for sharing your wonderful pictures of the crew setting up there and so forth. Anything you'd like to say that we haven't asked or covered?
Well, this was a longer trip than I had originally planned.
Scrubs always do that.
Thank you to my employer, TC Shadowlight, up in Lancaster, Earleola, Pennsylvania, for allowing me to follow my passion and to cover the things that I've been fortunate to be able to do. So again, thanks to all those up there, and I'll be back. Definitely want to come back, and thanks to the museum for being such a great place to take care of our stuff and to meet such great people like you and Karan and Marty and the rest of the crew here. I'll be back, and thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. A great partner to what we're building here at the American Space Museum is these quality type individuals that help us promote the history of the space age here in this birthplace, Brevard County.
One more thing.
Sure.
I'd like to put a shout out to Marie Fullerton again to
Hey,
hopefully when you're down here in May, I'll come on with you if you wish.
There you
But Mark will
Chris Callie will be here too.
Chris will be here. Yep, we'll take good care of you, and she's got wonderful stories. She's a wonderful lady with a great family, and I'm sure your viewers would be interested in some of her insights as far as being the wife of a
astronaut, Gordon Fullerton's wife, a very
from back in the day.
figure
So, hey,
of
Marie.
the shuttle, getting the shuttle operational. He was part of the He was part of the approach and landing test too. Fullerton flew with our good friend Fred Hayes. So.
Okay.
Well, everybody, we've had a great week, and we've got a guest tomorrow. We're going to have Kevin Panic on Stay Curious. You're going to enjoy a real pad rat on our Stay Curious program. Kevin worked out there on the pads. In fact, he's got a quilt of all pad rat kind of T-shirts. I said, "Can I call you a pad rat?" And there was that insulting. Oh, heck no. They love that moniker and wear it proudly out there. So, Marty, that's what we're doing tomorrow. We got 3 guests lined up for next week. We got Gary Studi's going to talk about growing food in space. We've got Terry White's going to come on and talk about the real return to flight, STS-2, doing Columbia for the second time. And we're going to have Gary Allgaier come back and talk about this building the shuttle, how it came in virtual pieces and parts here when it was delivered in 1979, and what they had to do to put it together. So Marty and I are working hard to put some great content together so that you can all stay curious. So thank you, Mark Usciak, and on behalf of our director, Karan Conklin, we appreciate all that you and your brother have done to give us a bigger footprint out there. You certainly have, and I cherish our personal friendship with both of you all. So.
Likewise.
Marty, thank you for a great Streamlabs job today, and until tomorrow, I'm Mark Marquette saying, come with us and see a real pad rat and hear the story out there at Kennedy Space Center from Kevin Panic, all to bridge the space between us.